For a brief moment in the early 1990s, Sacramento ruled the football world, from almost bringing the Los Angeles Raiders to town to eventually becoming champions of the American football playing world. It was a fleeting, glorious moment for the city. If the Dallas Cowboys are America's team, then I guess that made Sacramento and the Surge the world's team for those 3 years between 1990 and 1992. Those that lived it wouldn't trade the memories for the world. The history of the Sacramento Surge is equal parts chaos and charm. They didn't simply win a national title in a national sports league. Their championship was international, spanning all longitudes and latitudes. This is when Sacramento ruled the football world.
K. Stevenson, the Sacramento Surge, rules the world.
The Sacramento Surge entered the 1992 World League playoffs winners of 5 straight and full of confidence. Their opponents, on the other hand, were trending in the exact opposite direction. The Barcelona Dragons, in their beautiful uniforms and logo, had lost 4 straight contests, scoring a total of 10 points in their last 3 matchups. That doesn't even tell the entire story of the Dragons season. They opened the year 5-1, but all of those games were played in Europe. Their final 4 fixtures saw them take, well, quite the road trip. They went from Birmingham, Alabama, back to Barcelona, over to New York, and then Orlando, Florida in consecutive weeks. From one sunny location to the other, the Dragons had to go from Orlando to Sacramento for their first round playoff matchup against the Surge. The last time these two teams met, it was also in Sacramento in a very odd 29-20 overtime victory for the Dragons. That was 1991 in Hughes Stadium. In 92, the game would be taking place at Hornet Stadium and the stakes would be much higher. On the line was a berth to World Bowl 92. The Surge entered this contest as 2 touchdown favorites, heading into a game that had a lot of excitement around town. You could say the situation was hot, but not as hot as the temperatures on May 31st, 1992 down at Hornet Stadium. It was 85 degrees at kickoff, which was happening at noon, and by the time the second half began, the temperatures are well into the 90s. All of the players, all of the coaches, everyone looks pretty miserable.
That's the way they dress in the desert, and they'll do it here in Sacramento this afternoon.
The TV broadcast simply labeled the conditions as scorching. Not that you could watch this game on live TV in Sacramento. KOVR, the ABC affiliate which had the rights to the game, opted to show it on tape delay 3 hours later because they didn't want to disturb the Children's Miracle Network telethon. The heat did not bother Jim Valvano on the sideline, looking as dapper as ever in his suit and tie. He's actually surprisingly good in his role of sideline reporter. Look, he's doing his shtick for sure.
I also talked to David Arch and say, hey, what's going on?
But when you go beyond that, you can tell he's doing the work. He knows the game. He knows the people involved. Like I said, it's really good work from Valvano here.
He said the Barcelona defense is so disciplined in their drops and their spacing is so good that he's been unable to find seams in that defense.
Valvano was just one of the 23,640 people in attendance at Hornet Stadium on this day. The playoff bout saw the Surge set their all-time home attendance record. One of the most interesting things, and I think coolest things about this game between the Surge and the Dragons, is the atmosphere. It does not feel like some American football game. It has that atmosphere you would expect to find at an FA Cup final. It's warm, it's sunny, everyone's super happy to be there. There were balloons. To that extent, anyone who was there watching the Surge take on the Dragons at Hornet Stadium has fond memories of being there because it was such a fun experience. It was a football game where a party broke out in the heat. Like most good parties, no one bothers showing up at the start. Both teams are really uneven during the first quarter. Surge quarterback David Archer nearly fumbles on the first possession of the game. Dragons kicker Eddie Garcia then shanks a field goal wide left. The party picks up in the second quarter when Surge safety Louis Riddick, of now ESPN fame, snags a pick 6 to open the scoring, giving the Sacramento Surge a 7-0 lead. Later on in that same quarter, he lays the lumber on Dragons running back Joe Mickles. As the quarter progresses, the Dragons go on a very long, meandering 16-play scoring drive that ends in a field goal, and there you have it. It's 7-3 at the break. The teams return to the Hornet Stadium heater for the second half, and it looks like the Surge are going to pull away from the Dragons early on. A few minutes into the half, downtown, Eddie Brown scores on an 86-yard punt return for Sacramento to take a 14-3 lead. Then, immediately afterwards, afterwards, out of nowhere, the game gets flipped upside down. The Dragons get the ball and score on a 90-yard touchdown pass. Archer then throws an interception, and Barcelona goes on to take the lead through a touchdown pass from Scott Ernie a few plays later. It's 15-14 midway through the third quarter, and the party has officially been pooped. It looks like it's about to be lights out for the Sacramento Surge as Dragons kicker Eddie Garcia lines up for a field goal in the fourth quarter that would give the visitors a 4-point lead. The Surge offense had done nothing all game long. They were super ineffective. It was later reported that Archer had a stomach bug during this game, which caused him to throw quite a few errant passes. The Dragons taking a 4-point lead probably seals the game for them. Thankfully, the kick goes wide right, and the tables turn once again. The Surge managed to work their way into field goal range, where kicker Kerry Blanchard sneaks one in for the home team to go up by 2 points with about 4 minutes left in the contest. It was a pretty nervy finish, but Sacramento does hold on, and they earn a berth to World Bowl 92. The showpiece of it is taking place at Olympic Stadium in Montreal, which is a pretty awesome place. Montreal, by the way, had done pretty good attendance numbers for their hometown team, the Machine. It trailed off in 92 because the Machine were not very good, but the hope was a solid crowd would show up for the World Bowl. Awaiting the Surge would be the Orlando Thunder, led by Detroit Lions loanee Scott Mitchell. They also finished the World League regular season 8-2 and absolutely destroyed the Birmingham Fire in their semifinal 45-7. Sadly, the buildup for the American Football World Championship gets lost in the shuffle back home in Sacramento as the team is away in Montreal preparing for the big game. Surge owner Fred Anderson thought it was the perfect time to announce he had bought the Arco Park Stadium site and was making a pitch for the Giants. It was such terrible timing, and it's something that could have easily been done a few days later, a week later, after the World Bowl had taken place. Because make no mistake, this news about Arco Park trying to get built with the Giants playing there is front page news, and it relegates the Surge to far lesser coverage than it probably would have received without all of this talk about the Giants coming to Sacramento. I suppose that was still better than some of the other news out there, namely officials from the World League continuing to talk about how they were coming back for the 93 season and continuing to say the league wasn't in danger. They were repeating the line so much you couldn't help but think something was up, something was happening behind the scenes. That, though, is a concern for down the road. There was still one more game left in the 92 season, and it just happened to be for all the marbles for supremacy of the American football playing world. Nearly 44,000 people turned out in Montreal, some Surge and Thunder fans, but mostly just people from the Canadian city curious as to what was happening here. For the Surge, things did not get off to the best of starts. A comically late hit from Louis Riddick on a third and long keeps a Thunder drive alive. Naturally, they then go on to score the game's opening touchdown and take a 7-0 lead. Surge defensive coordinator Jim Haslett not particularly impressed by what he saw. The Surge respond with a field goal in the second quarter. The Surge's hero from the previous week, Eddie Brown, is still perhaps a little too amped up from returning that punt for a touchdown, the first in his entire career, because here against the Thunder, he fumbles in the first half while returning a punt, and that sets up Orlando with good field position. They do not waste any time capitalizing on the mistake. Another Mitchell touchdown pass sees Orlando go up 14-3. Surge quarterback David Archer, perhaps a little too desperate to try to make something happen, then throws a pick. Inside 2 minutes remaining in the half, the Thunder get a field goal to extend their lead to 14 points. Eddie Brown then makes amends for his previous mistake by getting the Surge into field goal range with 1 second left in the half. Kerry Blanchard's kick is good, and Sacramento enters halftime down by 11. Any positive momentum that may have given Sacramento was quickly undone when Archer fumbles in the red zone, as it looks like the Surge were going to score. The Surge's defense gets a stop, but the offense gives the ball right back to Orlando on their next drive. This time, an ill-fated end-around wide receiver pass from Brown is happily collected by the Thunder defense. The play call itself, though, gives you an idea of just how out of sync Sacramento's offense is and how out of ideas everyone just seems to be at this point. They didn't score a touchdown against Barcelona. They haven't scored a touchdown in 3 quarters against Orlando. Either the Surge can't move the ball because Archer is wildly inaccurate with his passes, or the offense is turning the ball over needlessly. Going into the fourth quarter, Sacramento seemed doomed. It was hard to envision them scoring the 11 points needed to even tie this contest up, and it almost got worse. Early on in the fourth quarter, it looked like wide receiver Mark Stock had fumbled the ball, but he narrowly got his knee to the ground. It was the break the Surge needed. A few plays later, David Archer breaks his spell of not great play by hurling a touchdown pass to tight end Paul Green. You get the sense Sacramento is starting to believe now, and then on the 2-point conversion, you get a hell of a pitch and catch between Archer and Stock that sees Orlando's lead cut to 3. The momentum shift is real and quickly realized with Sacramento on defense. Riddick coming through on an A-gap blitz knocks the ball out of Mitchell's hands inside Thunder territory. It was a gift that would be squandered, however. The Surge offense goes 3 and out, and then Blanchard shanks a game-tying field goal. I'm not exactly sure what happened here, but it does seem like something happened because Archer, who in addition to being the Surge's starting quarterback, was also the team's placeholder on field goals, comes off the field very angry and seemingly angry with himself. There's still 9 minutes left though. All is not lost. All the Surge need to do is get a stop and they'll have a chance to either tie or win the World Bowl. And boy oh boy, Sacramento did not have to wait long for another opportunity. Linebacker Mike Jones intercepts Mitchell and gives the team the ball inside Orlando's 40. There would be no 3 and out for the Surge this time around. A fantastic catch and run from running back Mike Pringle gives Sacramento a 1st and goal. After a pair of runs that go absolutely nowhere, Archer lobs the ball to downtown Eddie Brown and Sacramento takes its first lead of the ball game. There's still time to play though. The Thunder get the ball back. Then Mitchell proceeds to almost fumble it away immediately. In fact, I'm convinced this was a fumble. I'm not sure why the referees blew this play dead. Forward progress wasn't stopped. It's just a bad call.
No, he's taking some shots. That looked like a fumble.
It was something that had clearly rattled Mitchell though, because on the next play, he almost throws an interception. As bad as the Surge's offense was in the first half, Orlando's offense in the second half has been worse. They are extremely disjointed. Mitchell is 5 for 16 in the second half at this point in the game. Their last 3 plays are interception, a fumble that wasn't called, but probably a fumble, and almost interception. So what does the Thunder offense manage to conjure up next? Riddick on another blitz strips Mitchell on a really heads-up play to locate the ball. Orlando does recover the fumble, but we do need to take some time to appreciate this play. Riddick does not take his eyes off the ball. He knows exactly what he's looking for. He knows exactly what he is doing. It's a cerebral defensive play. It's one he probably doesn't have the physical talent to make in the NFL, but you do get an idea of what kind of mind he does have for the sport in this play. The ESPN, or the future ESPN analyst, by the way, super pumped with himself, and rightly so. Terrible first half penalty in the World Bowl aside, Riddick is huge for Sacramento in the entire playoffs. And for most of the regular season too, he doesn't miss tackles. He can put a hit on someone. Like, he lays the lumber down when he needs to. He makes plays. He generates turnovers. Riddick is a really good player for the Sacramento Surge, and he's a good player at least at this level. You can kind of see he's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. That's why he didn't make a career for himself in the NFL. But here, he is arguably the Surge's best player. Looking to wind down the clock, Sacramento commits multiple holding penalties on the next drive. The Surge punt, giving Orlando the opportunity to score a game-winning touchdown. Instead, though, it's more the same for the Thunder on offense. Until Mitchell finally completes a pass on 3rd down. It is fumbled, the Thunder recover, but you could just see how disoriented the entire offense is, and one play later, that would be on full display. Michael Sinclair breezes past the Orlando offensive line for a strip sack on Mitchell. He recovers the ball himself too, and Sacramento is in the driver's seat as the 2-minute warning nears. I don't know if I have ever seen 8 straight offensive plays as bad as what Orlando churned out in the World Bowl 92. It is a ruinous, disastrous sequence of offensive plays, the stuff of nightmares. 3 fumbles, a 4th that wasn't called, 2 near interceptions, incomplete passes. The team's lone positive play here also included a fumble that they just happened to recover. Sacramento almost scores again, but a holding penalty would negate Pringle's touchdown scamper. Not that the Surge minded in the slightest, because it meant they could run out the clock, and there you have it. Sacramento Surge 21, Orlando Thunder 17. It meant those Surge players and coaching staff could lift up the 41-pound crystal globe.
We pronounce you the champions of the world, the Sacramento Surge. Congratulations.
Be careful, lift that up. That's 41 pounds worth of crystal.
After the victory, the Surge returned home. Some fans greeted them at the airport. There was an event at what is today known as Cesar Chavez Plaza, with Sacramento Mayor-elect Joe Cerna telling the crowd, "Sacramento may not be world-class, but we are world champs," a historic line for a historic victory. The good times for the Sacramento Surge would roll on for a little bit longer in the aftermath of the win. Why not meet the Surge cheerleaders at your neighborhood Bel Air and buy some chicken breasts while you're at it? Things eventually do fizzle out. A lot of Surge players find themselves in NFL training camps. Surge head coach Case Stevenson announced he would return for the 1993 season. The NFL, though, was keeping mum on any 93 season plans. That's because the league's priority was a ongoing lawsuit with players over free agency. This had become Paul Tagliabue's priority. Everything goes quiet on the World League front. The Surge are still making plans as if there's going to be a 93 season because the NFL had spent a lot of 92 talking about how we're coming back for the year. Then the NFL loses its court case against players. All the owners assume that's going to mean higher salaries. Even then, nothing is communicated to the World League owners for over a week about what's the status of the league for 93. Then on September 17th, the NFL pulls the plug. No warning, no talk about exploring what the league's future may hold. It's just done. And everyone is left sort of stunned and confused by this news. Anderson was particularly stung by the announcement, which came about a month after he pulled out of buying the Arco Park site and luring the Giants to town. They were off to Tampa, or so it seemed. As for the Surge, that's it. They went from champions to death in 4 months' time. The World League returns in 95, but with no American teams and really no world element. It's Europe, and that's why it would become NFL Europe. Anderson spends a few months bickering with the NFL over compensation for them pulling the plug on the World League, but the Surge, they quickly fade from public memory.
The Sacramento Surge was probably more fun than anything I've done, and it was an awful downer to see it terminated by the NFL.
It would not be the end for professional football in Sacramento, despite having sworn off a professional football team, any sort of professional sports team. Anderson had a problem. He was locked into leasing those bleachers and equipment at Hornet Stadium for at least another year, and that lease was costing him an estimated $1,000 a day. He kind of needed something to be playing there. Meanwhile, our friendly neighbors to the north, well, they had themselves a crazy idea too. The Surge may have been gone, but a new team and a new league would take their place in 1993. That, though, is a story for another occasion. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to know more about just all things Sacramento sports related, well, check out the playlist in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. A lot of history can be found up there. Until next time, I am Cheyenne Hollis. This is The Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to 25.